Will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 1387, a bill to amend Title 44 United States Code to require preservation of certain electronic records by federal agencies, to require a certification and reports relating to presidential records, and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Clay, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Bilbray, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Missouri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consent.
Gentleman's recognized.
H.R. 1387, the Electronic Message Preservation Act, is another open government bill that we are considering in celebration of Sunshine Week. This bill modernizes the requirements of the Federal Records Act and the Presidential Records Act to ensure that federal agencies and the White House preserve emails and other electronic messages. H.R. 1387 was introduced by Representative Holtz, and it is substantially similar to H.R. 5811, a bill that passed the House last year with bipartisan support. This bill requires agencies and the White House to adopt and maintain records management and retention policies that are consistent with modern technology. Under current law, federal agencies have broad discretion to determine how electronic messages are preserved. In a 2008 report, the Government Accountability Office found that many agencies rely on unreliable print and file systems for preserving documents, for preserving electronic records, including emails. A GAO reviewed the practices of senior agency officials and determined that emails were not retained in adequate record-keeping systems, making the email records easier to lose or delete and harder to find and use. Last week, the National Security Archive awarded its 6th annual Rosemary Award for Worst Open Government Performance to the Chief Information Officers Council. The council was chosen because it has never addressed the failure of the government to save its email electronically. H.R. 1387 directs the Archivist of the United States to issue regulations requiring agencies to preserve emails in an electronic format. These regulations must cover at a minimum the capture, management, preservation, and electronic retrieval of electronic messages. The bill requires the archivist to establish a process to certify the electronic records management systems used by the agencies. And at this time, Madam Speaker, I would urge my colleagues to join in passage of this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of the bill.
Gentleman's recognized.
I yield myself as much time as I may consume. Madam Speaker, this is a classic example of trying to work together to open up the system, allow the transparency that the American people are demanding, and I strongly support its intention and its execution. Madam Speaker, you may remember when we got here in '95 that there were members of Congress that could not understand the concept of sending electronic emails between officers or outside. It was alien to Washington to be so technologically plugged in. Just shows you how times have changed. Now we're finally starting to address the technology, and I think the gentleman from Missouri even recognized that, Madam Speaker, that we really need to push harder at opening up the system, embracing the new technologies that allows not only the public to know better, but also the representatives of the public to be able to function in a much more efficient manner. This bill is truly one that we've been trying to work on for years. It's one that was controversial in certain circles, but I think it's one that we need to move forward with. And I hope, again, that this is another one of those steps that the Government Oversight Committee is looking to set an example to the rest of the Congress and the rest of Washington to find reasons to get to, yes, find reasons to work together, and find reasons to do it better. And I think that that is one thing we can do here. And Madam Speaker, I have to say, while speaking on this item, it's sad that on the downside, we have been trying for over a decade to do something the new president has talked a lot about, and that's using e-technology for electronic medical records. And the fact is the federal government has been trying to develop that for our veterans and our active duty military for over a decade and still have not been able to implement it. So I hope this is one step towards becoming comfortable with reviving, restoring, and really redesigning the way we approach e-technology and new technology, and that we'll embrace it rather than being terrified by it like some people were in the 90s when we showed up. And I reserve the remainder of my time.
Gentleman from Missouri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I couldn't agree more with my friend from California that we hope this is the impetus to spur the development, the successful development of electronic medical records, because we know what the savings would mean to our health care system, and we know that it could possibly save lives to reduce errors. So at this time, Madam Speaker, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the distinguished chairman of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, the gentleman from Brooklyn.
Thank you very much.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Let me thank the chair of the subcommittee for yielding, and to thank Congressman Bilbray from California for his work on this committee, and Congressman Hose, and of course the ranking member of the full committee, Congressman Issa. You know, I think that when you work together, you can come up with strong legislation that can truly make a difference. I also would like to thank the staff that worked on this legislation as well. I think that when we look at electronic records, when we look at the information that needs to be preserved, I really feel that this legislation gets us to where we need to go. I think now more than ever that we have to make certain that this information is held at least for a certain period of time, so people can make an assessment and to see in terms of where we might have made mistakes and can now correct them. So I want to salute you for the work that you've done, Chairman Clay, and of course Ranking Member Bilbray, and of course all the staff members that work so hard to bring us to where we are today. And on that note, I yield back.
Thank you.
Gentleman from California.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd just like to close by again thanking the ranking member and the full committee chairman for allowing the minority to participate in the formation of this bill. There are so many committees that aren't allowing the minority to participate. I think that this is really a nice example of the cooperation that I think the American people want to see and don't see enough of, and I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for allowing us to participate in the process. And I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman from Missouri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and let me also thank the ranking member for his participation. As we have stated earlier, this is Sunshine Week, and it's time for openness and accountability, and I appreciate participating with you in these series of bills. In closing, let me also mention that in this bill we are also considering an amendment that makes a number of drafting corrections suggested by the National Archives. For example, the amendment clarifies that the bill addresses electronic presidential records rather than all presidential records. H.R. 1387 will make the government more accountable by protecting an important part of the historical record, and I urge every member to join me in supporting this legislation. Madam Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1387 as amended? Those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.